Hello, I am Radagast, at your service. So, a little potpourri tonight. I'm going to get around a few messages. There were two things that I guess came out in the last week or so, week or 10 days. One was strictly regarding the ambassador. I call it a white paper, because that's how it was presented. It was presented as a kind of an official document mentioning names, non-wives, phone numbers, all kinds of associations, things like Mitsubishi and other funny things. Anyway, it's a completely silly. It would be a silly paper if it wasn't for the fact that some of the phone numbers they put there are people completely unaffiliated with the ambassador were put in this report, and so it was very irresponsible. And who knows what kind of emotions will get stirred up by people who think they're reading about criminals or whatever they make up in their head, and then decide to use these numbers to either harass, say unpleasant things, or occasionally, people, since they're anonymous, will make death threats, and they'd be making them all to innocent people who have nothing to do with anything other than somebody's faulty research. So if you do read that paper, please know it for the piece of shit that it is. And then there's another thing by Cobra out there. I guess it's on the Koiupeli WordPress blog. And it speaks about the red dragon family, and red and blue dragons they mention. So I guess the only focus I really give it on is the blue dragons are, I guess, their own creation. Just like I'm a dragon, I'm a water dragon. And aquamarine really is my color, blue-green, but it's really aquamarine. So I guess I could be an aquamarine dragon. And I'm totally allowed to call myself that, and it wouldn't even necessarily be offensive as long as I am just saying I'm calling myself an aquamarine dragon, and I have no affiliation with the families who also share a dragon designation. So basically it seems like the blue dragons are their own dragons. And the red dragons belong to a certain group. And it was a good article. I'll just say that overall. I thought it was had some good input. I won't to comment too much on it, especially knowing that I do have a bias. I don't really want to get into it, because then it might seem like I think it's a responsible article. That's what I'll say. And the only thing I really wanted to clear up is that in the dragon families, what are considered dragon families, the blue dragons that are being spoken of are not part of that system. And what would it be? Yeah, I think that'll do it. Then plus they mention the Argothans, and the Argothans, I'm not saying that seems quite possible, because there is a honeycombed earth. I won't call it hollow. And there are enough tales, not only of people who have gone down there to live, but people who even emerged to the surface to live. So, again, the whole Argothan, blue dragon type thing is what it is. And it seems that whoever they are, they seem to be good people. And so anyway, it's a decent article, I think. Really, regarding the ambassador, and I'll say the message of the red dragon. Please understand that there's a kind of a little they're all part of a family, and then there's different teams, I'll call it, and again, all working, but sometimes there's you could have just different ways of doing things, and I would like to say the focusing on the message, because the message of the ambassador and now it really is. I mean, I picked up on his message. That's why I joined the team. Not because the message he was sharing was the message that was speaking true in my heart. I'm not going to say resonate with. Of course, I did have a resonance, but resonate is becoming a little bit of a new age silly term, and it might be, if I resonate with something, then I'll know, this feels good. Then I'll find out why. And if my resonance passes my own smell test, I'm good to go. And the message is really about removing the slave mentality that we have. And the slave mentality really is, there's a kind of a formula where if you owe somebody money, they're your master and you're their slave. And until you repay the debt, you are in slavery to the debtor. Because you do. I mean, you owe somebody, that puts you in a... well, I guess it doesn't have to be disempowering, because again, if you make a deal with somebody and you have agreements and you keep your agreements, then you feel quite empowered. But you do know that you do have a certain bondage to a debtor until you unbond yourself. And there's a certain, especially in the Western countries where there's varying degrees of social welfare. In many ways, because of the welfare, there's a certain slave type of thing, because again, you're paying taxes. It's not like you're getting it for free. You're giving them lots of money. They're taking lots of money, and then what little bit they can give back in the form of what it looks like they're giving to you, so that you're in debt to them. It's the trick they play. So even with the when it comes to different papers and stuff that come out, regardless of what it is, you really want to do your own research mentally, and then you want to do your own search in the heart. I remember in one of my previous videos, I had said, if you have an issue with the ambassador's message, if you have an issue, with the ambassador's message, let's keep it simple. Let's keep the red dragons out of it right now. Do you know why? Do you really know what is the problem with the message, other than I hear about there might be funds and there's no money in my bank account yet? Which is really what drives, I feel, a lot of people. They realize that just screaming about the money might make them look bad, so then they start to look for other reasons. And then when junk like Neil Keenan's Pied Piper piece, or this recent white paper, as I'm calling it, these are based on knowing that there are people who don't like what they're hearing, and it's really frustration. It's really frustration. I heard that there's money that's supposed to be, that was held for them. Where is it? And if it isn't forthcoming, then all of a sudden everybody's a fraud. And so when Neil Keenan writes a piece, everybody goes, well, all I could do is really complain about the money, but look at this. And the white paper comes, oh, look at this. And it all ends up basically where people who don't know how to say what's bothering, because the only thing that really is bothering them is the money. When these other things come out, they use them because they have no words. There's nothing more to say. The issue is about money. It's really not about the message. So if somebody comes along, saying, this person's slimy here, or this, that, or just making stuff up, largely like the white paper, then, you're feeding people who don't have any real grudge, but since you found a grudge, they'll use that as their grudge because that sounds more legitimate than where's my money. And the experiment. There's really always an experiment going on with all of us, but the experiment happens more consciously when you are at an elite level. And I will speak for myself as somebody at an elite level due to my own uplifting education. And by the way, I have a GED. Just so you know, I mean, I completed high school, but I had a full-time job, and I was also in a band that rehearsed 5 days a week. So I nipped a class in the morning so I could sleep, because I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my first class was like 7:30. So I nipped that one so I could at least get some sleep. And then I had to leave an hour early because I had to get to rehearsal, and then I got on a train from rehearsal and went to work, and then I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was in that kind of schedule. So I dropped out. I dropped out gym too. So I dropped out gym, world history, and English 8. So when I went to go back to get my credits, I was already paying my mother's rent, and so here comes some little school guard, and he wants to know where my pass is, and getting that whole attitude, like, hey, you got to check you out. And I was like, you know what, this is for children. I pay my mom. I don't think anybody here asking me for a pass is paying their mother's rent. I can't do this. So years later, I got a GED. The only reason I say that is because some people You say, well, if I had when they speak with me, they go, oh, well, if I had your education, perhaps I could express myself as well. Basically, like I said, I have a high school education, then I'm self-educated the rest of my life, and because I am clear on my thoughts. I mean, a lot of times people have said to me, gee, you express yourself, you say things so much more eloquently than I can. You can put things into words that I can't. I do have a gift for communication, granted, so I can be eloquent, but there's also not being eloquent, just be able to state your piece. But you really can't state your piece if you don't know what you think. And so that's really, you gotta have to search your heart and your research, know really where you stand with things. And if you know actually where you stand with yourself and the issues that you have in the world, you will be quite eloquent, because you can't really find words for thoughts that you really don't have. There's a lot. I mean, that's a big part of self-deception and delusion. We have ideas, we can feel them buzzing, but they don't really have coherence. So when you go to express it in language, you can't be coherent, because you aren't coherent. You can't bring coherence from your mouth through a mind that hasn't put it into a coherent pattern. So that's really, I can't tell you how many times people go, oh, I can't really express myself like you. And it's because you haven't thought your way clear. You cannot speak about what you really don't have clear. So, that's a form of self-deception, thinking that you have ideas, but you just don't have the language. And you'll never have language for words that you haven't really formed in your head. And that's all and a part of that is because one of the buzzwords that I hope is floating around for everybody is autonomy and sovereignty. And, they go together, because from that once you understand what autonomy is and your self-empowerment, because autonomy is self-empowerment. And it doesn't mean being alone. It means empowering yourself through your own validity. Other people may reflect your validity or deflect it and even question it. But if you know that you have your own validity, then you can just say you're entitled to your own opinion. It doesn't matter. Sticks and stones do not hurt somebody who has their own validity. When insults and other things, that they kind of like grievously hurt you, that's because you do not have self-validity. You are not autonomous. You are the reason why these words hurt is because they're hitting at parts that are not solidified. There's actually just truth in the words, and often, or even if it's just somebody being mean and there's no truth, they're just saying complete crap. It hurts because you can't tell yourself, what a jerk. Why is this person insulting me? As opposed to, oh, you insulted me, and that whole drama that people get into from lack of self-worth and lack of self-validity. A person with self-worth cannot be insulted in any kind of way that affects them emotionally. They cannot. They can only hear a bunch of crap. A monkey throwing shit is what is what an insult is. And you might want to get out of the arm range, but other than that, it's not a big deal. And autonomy and sovereignty. Sovereignty is the ability really to be yourself and then exist into a system that has a common goal. Any kind of like to me, an organ in your body. You have a whole system. Let's call it your body would be like equivalent of the world, the whole world, and all the cultures on it. And so your liver is one culture, your heart's another culture, your lungs are another culture. And of course, in this case, they're very specified. No autonomous region has to be that specified. But still, like an organ, it's like, okay, you're in a system. What do you do? And part of autonomy is knowing, who am I? What is my worth? What do I do? And a good question is what I do of real worth? Because there are some jobs in the world that their worth is their paycheck. And to me, the worth of a job should have little to do with the paycheck, but should have everything to do with you being autonomous and bringing your skills, your unique skills that you can work at an elite level, and finding an application for them. I mean, I work as a massage therapist, and I never get a salary. If I don't work, I don't get paid. I have no idea what I'm going to make year to year, even though I make about the same. And I go into a year not knowing what I'm going to make any given year, and it all works. And that's the other thing, is wherever I go, because of what I do, I bring my job with me. I mean, I can work on somebody sitting in a chair. I can work on somebody standing. I can work. If I can put my hands on you, I can make you. If you have an issue, I can improve it. So, that's the other thing, is, I have skills. I mean, a woodworker can go anywhere, and if there's wood, a hammer, and a saw, and whatever, they can produce something of value. Provided they're a decent woodworker. So many. I mean, that's what skills. Now, of course, there are paper skills, there are clerical skills, but right now I feel in the world there is a lot more paper pushing than is really useful, other than a paycheck. And a paycheck is useful because the world is constructed wrong. But the beautiful thing is, even in a world constructed wrong, it doesn't prevent you from having a skill or a true profession that travels wherever you go. It's just something to consider about being autonomous, and, what do you do? What do you do, and, what do you excel in? Lucifer spreading shadow, God spreading love. Which energy has more followers? I kind of picked that up listening to a video from Ron and Aristo tonight. And I liked that, because again, when you look at the world, and if you just take the archetypal Luciferic energy, service to self, and the archetypal God energy, service to others, but once again, a balanced service to others, and then you look at the world and ask, who's winning? Is the Luciferic side winning, the hearts and minds of people, or is God winning the hearts and minds of people? And if you look at movies that are based on largely blowing things up, a murder every couple of minutes, I don't see that as God has our hearts and minds there. If you watch the news that lies to you constantly, if you're watching regular TV, almost everything is a lie. Even nature shows, if you listen to the verbiage, they're bending the truth. Has God won your heart there, or has the darkness won your heart? I could just go on and on. But if you look at your life, or the typical person's life in the 21st century, and what they do and where their money goes, you have to ask, whose side are they on? And when I look at the big picture, I see the darkness has many hearts and minds. The culture of America is a death cult. Our movies celebrate death and murder and heroes who murder. We talk about psychopaths, and then we have a guy who blows 5 people away and then he kisses the girl. Okay? It's just, even when I was watching The Lord of the Rings, I would just think about, here's Aragorn, and he just, dismembered, 15 orcs. He's covered in blood, and then, he's at dinner. Oh, hello, lady. It's like, is this man a psychopath or not? Again, it was, he's representing the good guy, but, it's pretty interesting when, the heroes are, having, dismembering 15 people a day. An interesting juxtaposition of things. Self. 19 minutes already. Self-delusion. Or self-deception. That's just, again. That's a lot of people think they're representing that God has their minds and their hearts, and then when you look at how they what they do. If you texting while driving is about as irresponsible thing as somebody could do. Lots of people text while they drive. Who has your heart and mind? Is that service to self or service to others when you text and drive? So there's so much. The self-delusion is a big part of why we're not already celebrating the fact that people who considered money, a large portion of the money they were making was to be held for humanity, and now the timing is right, the cosmic timing is right, the consciousness of those people is right, and I think and I honestly believe that that the ambassador was an inspiration for, like, let's do this. He's never said that, but that's my sense. I might be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, but I do have a sense of things, and that's my sense of things. So self-delusion. I mean, people who, like, again, people have really given their hearts and minds over to the darkness, but do not think of themselves that way. And so when people are that self-delusional and they go, "We're ready," these are the same self-delusional people saying that. And just because, I mean, their self-delusion is almost in every corner of their life. Now, in certain cases, you go, "Well, I'm not," in certain cases, I mean, if you happen to have an iPhone, you want to keep it, yes, you are. I mean, you've already given money to Apple, and then you're giving money to the telecom companies, whatever their cost a month. Now, in that certain cases, it's like, okay, but I'm not going to give it up. Fine, I understand that. But just know what you're doing. This way here, you're not in self-delusion. It's like, okay, I'm giving a little money to the beast there, but that's my choice. Now you're empowered. Now you're being straight with yourself. And when you're straight with yourself, other people will then realize, even if they disagree, that's not so good, but this person's in integrity because they're owning where they are. So if they can be in that much integrity about what's maybe not pretty about themselves, well, that's usually a sign of a trustworthy person. You might not like exactly what they do, but if they're straight, you have somebody you can deal with because they're straight. They have integrity, and being in integrity is to be in autonomy. And once you have autonomy and integrity, then you can start speaking about being a true sovereign. A sovereign isn't about your name. I mean, they all that sovereignty movement, they make it about your name. Yeah, the legal system's a real problem with sovereignty. They are doing their best and have done a very good job of stealing it, but they cannot steal your sense of sovereignty, where you know it, and you have to, so that integrity is the core of sovereignty. Where you can say, yes, we can do this together because I can count on people's integrity to follow through. And that's where we get back to everything as a test. I mean, somebody says, "Oh, I need some money," and I lend it to them. It's supposed to come back very quickly. Now, I make it a habit of never lending money that I cannot just give. So in many ways, it's a test. I could give it, but I do tithe. I give away 10% of my earnings. The money that I lent this person did not come out of my tithe, but I realized that if it did not come back to me, a little hole. But again, it's not something I couldn't manage, so I could stay emotionally straight on it. But the person who I dealt with, they don't look the same to me anymore. I'm a bill collector now. I can make phone calls. I don't get phone calls back. I can send emails. I don't get emails back. You do somebody a favor and then they treat you like a bill collector. Okay, so, and I always say, you can trust everybody to reveal who they really are. And this person presented in a lot of ways. In simple things, he was good. But when the test got a little bit harder, fell apart. There's a lot. There's a few examples, but again, the whole thing is, at least now I have this person's number, and and again, this is like, $350, from somebody who lives at the poverty level isn't the greatest, but because I live simply, even while I eat exclusively organic food, I can do these things, because I know who I am. I don't delude myself about what I can do. Only do what I can do, and I don't end up getting myself in trouble because I wasn't in self-deception about what I can do and what I can't do. Ideas. And that's the other thing, of course, we're going to get a little bit to money. A big part of the seminars and writing business plans. Now, again, a regular corporate business plan is an elaborate thing, and often a lot of it is fluff. I mean, there's a thing, but people just try to. There's a lot of nonsense in a big fat corporate business plan. The most important part of making a plan, business or otherwise, is that we all say, oh, I have ideas, I have ideas, I have ideas. By making a plan, you not only can show others your ideas, but a lot of times you yourself, when you get down to plan, you go like, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw South Park. They had the underpants gnomes, and they were stealing underpants, and so step 1 was steal underpants, step 3 was profit, but step 2 was a question mark. Okay. So their business plan was stealing underpants for profit, but they hadn't figured out how that profit part worked out. So that's my kind of like little in a nutshell about taking ideas and being able to write them down. So when you have 1 and 3, you have 2 in there and usually with 3, it doesn't always have to, in a regular business plan it's profit. In a more organic plan, it's like how it either feeds itself, or if let's say it's more charitable, the thing is, okay, what are expenditures and how do they get here and what does that produce? It's always it's about being able to present why you're doing something, how it happens, and what the result is. And so that's the whole part of a business plan, is because everybody has an idea, especially if you're told, oh, we will fund your ideas. Okay? Yes. In the form of a business plan that is coherent, because anything else would just be silly and not in integrity at anybody's level. Because somebody's saying, I'm ready, I have an idea, and then they get it and just goes away, they're not in integrity. And giving money to somebody that's not in integrity, more, when you already suspect it, like in my case, my friend had performed very well at low level, is when the bar got raised, he fell apart. So when we're talking about the general population, especially ones without a business plan, the bar is about as low as it's like you kind of expect. They can't even put together a business plan. What can they put together? In which case it would be irresponsible to expect them to be in integrity when you are looking at them and going, there's no integrity here, and you would be out of integrity to do that, to get in, enter into that agreement. And talk about agreements. To me, a big part of autonomy and sovereignty is we get away from laws and rules. In place of laws, we have ways, just like there's the law, the Torah, and then there's the way, the Tao. And obviously, for my perceptions and my sense of what is organic, the Tao is organic. The law is from a person. And so so you have ways. And they're all based upon consent and abiding that this is our organ. It's almost, it's, again, we'll get back to organs. There's certain functions a heart does, and it's largely a muscle. So it's got to be, keep up at rhythm, keep up with the demand, hopefully it doesn't pump too fast when you're not doing anything, and then when you do something, it pumps sufficiently without stressing itself out. So, there's that whole coherence there. A liver is not a muscle. It's, a complex factory. The kidneys are largely filters. If you would open a kidney, it looks almost like the inside of an air filter. It's got, got those, it looks just like a filter. Or gills, it looks almost like gills, which are filters. So, the whole, so your way, like a heart has a way of the heart. It's not the law of the heart. You don't have the law of your liver. You have the way your liver performs. That, and for it's its own, what we would perform like a law. It's almost like I've said it before. People call the laws of physics. No, it's the ways of physics. They are not laws. That's how physics behaves. So it's the ways of physics. And then you have what I would call under laws, or what would be laws or ways, and then you have rules. But rather than rules, you would have agreements. Where basic, let's say it's at a work site, or you all agree, and so you all agree that whatever time that you pick, you should show up at. And everybody agrees that if you don't show up on time, you're not in integrity. So you don't have to make a rule, well, there's a rule that you can't be more than 5 minutes late. No, we all agree that we're going to be on time. And then if you don't keep your agreement, you're a fuck up. you know. And time is actually one of my bugaboos, because it seems that time is one of the dimensions that many of our fourth dimensional airy fairies, who, oh, I'm in the fourth dimension, I can go there and I can transition, and all this other stuff. But meanwhile, when it comes to the 3D dimension of time, it's like, where is that? And to me, part of being in power as a 3D person, even before you get into four-dimensional thinking, is to be able to get your body to a time-space coordinate according to the time-space coordinates. It's not difficult. And generally, if you know anybody's late, they're always late the same amount of time. I think I might have said this once before. And but I mean, how many? I can't tell you how often I have certain people that I might Skype with. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And 35 minutes, I still haven't. Not only have I not been back to, but to me, there's nothing wrong with extension. But when the 5-minute limit's up, it's when you got to say, oh, need more time. And this time, maybe you might want to say, when I'm done, because that's very open-ended. And so when you're done, you're done. But if you say 5 minutes, and then 30 minutes later, you still haven't responded about the 5 minutes, it's like, what kind of coordination is that? So, I mean, and that's part of integrity. It's like, don't say 5 minutes if you don't think you can do it in 5 minutes. Leave yourself. Be honest. I don't know when I'll be back. Will you be, can I give you, a message and find out if you're there? I mean, this is where you're being in integrity. This is also where you get out of self-delusion, where don't commit yourself to something that you can't commit to. And if you don't know what you commit to, say you don't know and leave it opened up and leave people free. I mean, it's just, I can't tell you how much time I have sat waiting for supposedly 5 minutes, and then 30 minutes later I'm like, and again, these are people, oh, I'm, lots of integrity, I'm busy. I mean, it's like, seriously, there's no need to make yourself look silly. If you don't know that you can't, if you don't know what your timing is, just be honest. This is all about stop trying to please people, or you would like to be done in 5 minutes, but it's not really feasible. I mean, really, people need to just get with integrity. What we agreed to buy. I can't tell you how much punishment, penalty, and all that other stuff, because it all derives from rules, dead laws. They just, they're dead because there's nothing there. Where with ways and agreements, especially agreements, you always have human beings that these are based off of. They're not based on written words. They're based on agreements. So one's organic and one's archontic, or synthetic. Basically, none of the light. Now, there's always consequences. All right? I mean, life has its consequences. Let's say you want to put out a candle with your finger, and you don't put enough spit on it, and you a little bit of a burn. Okay, well, that was a consequence. It wasn't a punishment. That's, to me, that is the feedback that the feedback you get from doing something wrong should be organic, not synthetic and contrived. Now I'll get real dark here and also get back to integrity. Now, I don't believe in punishment penalties, and especially death penalties and stuff like that. I mean, death penalty is a death ritual. It's a murder ritual. Where, if you come in and you find somebody sleeping with your wife and you happen to do something bad to them that results in them dying, it's a consequence. It's not a death penalty. There wasn't a ruling. There wasn't a person with their bound like a victim. And then people, the whole drama and sickness of a death penalty is all gone. In a moment of passion, somebody doing something that somebody got murderously angry for, dealt with the consequences. And then the person who killed him might, would have different consequences. It might just be from like, oh man, I wish I had not been so crazed. I really could have walked away from that. But anybody who, most people might have gone, yeah, that was a bad call, but, it was, you were in your passion, and, shit happens. It's a consequence. Screwing somebody else's mate will have consequences, and the consequences will be organic. Whose mate are you sleeping with? You know, it kind of changes the consequences, and isn't some kind of law where no matter what happens, the same. Oh, I can't stand that stuff. It's so fake. But the real dire, a real dire thing would be, I don't know. Let's say somebody has a secret society, all right, and it's a society by joining you will benefit greatly from. But they let you know that, fine, you've passed certain things and we'll let you in, but should you ever screw us, we will kill you. All right? Well, that's your moment of truth. There's something here, and they're saying, well, we're inviting you in, but if, this is an agreement we have where you are loyal to us or we will kill you. And people, oh man, that's ugly. For my case, I might say, yes, that is ugly, in which case I would say, no deal. And then there's no ugly. So see, this is where being self-empowered is all about. Again, joining into something that might benefit somebody. All right, they're going, oh, this will benefit me. And they're going, yeah, oh, it'll benefit you big. But if you screw us up, we're going to kill you. Plain and simple. And so, again, that's what they're selling. We're selling, a very good life, and if you do it right, chances are it'll be nothing but a good life. But if you screw up, your life will be over. And so there's your moment of truth. Are you going to buy that agreement? And then if you do buy the agreement, but you're not really in integrity, and you do screw up, and they kill you, that was in the contract. Live up to the contract, or we will kill you. So it's really kind of cut and dried. You said yes to the contract, and you in violation of the contract, and somebody kills you. And to me, there should be, in an organic society, there's no police or, oh, this bad man. It's like, to me, in a real sovereign society, you are responsible for the contracts you make. Plain and simple. But of course, that's a level of autonomy and self-empowerment that most are not really ready. I might be shocking some people. It's because you're not ready. Whatever. Do we protect poor choices? I'm not even going to get into age of consent things, because I think there are two different kinds of consent, and I'm quite sure I've already outraged a few people. And so anyway, I am a musician too, and that was actually my first profession. So I'm going to post some links in my, where we put the explanation, or I put the explanation for what this is about. I'm going to post some links there. One will be from a band I was in the 70s. I guess maybe late 70s. I'm really not bad at dates, because to me it doesn't really matter. I kind of have an idea, but it's so not important to me. Matter of fact, when people are telling me stories and they start going for dates, oh, it might have been Tuesday, I'm like, just get on with the story. I don't need to know what the date of the story was. So one of them was this band I was with Razor's Edge. That was actually a band that we auditioned for Peter Tork of the Monkees, because this is before the Monkees had reformed, and he was thinking about taking some backup band to Japan. And we auditioned for him. We played really well. I think we played too well. So, and he was supposed to be the star of the show. And I might have even said this in an earlier video. So I'm going to put up a song that's called Feel So Low. I like it because it's not, even though we play some hard rocking stuff, this is a little more laid back. I will post a link to one of the first videos I ever posted on the Mod Wiz 125 channel, and that's a song I wrote called Flying with Fairy. And it was just meant to be an idea, but it ended up, as I went to do the idea, a song came out, and then I set it to some really nice pictures, very magical type pictures. And if you know anything about A432 tuning, that song is played. That's when, because that was after I had found out about 432, and once I found out about 432 playing, tuning and the organic nature of that tuning, I now play all my personal music in that tuning, because if musicians aren't going to make the adaptation to what's healthy and organic, who's supposed to do it? We're supposed to make a new rule, like they made a rule from 432 to 440. We need another rule. I don't need a rule. All I need is a tuner, and I make my own rule. When I play, when I play with other bands and music gets done in 440, I will tune in 440. But for my music, the music I'm going to make for myself and other people, it's in 432. So Flying with Fairy, which is a video, is in 432. Feel So Low will just be up. I think I'm going to link you to my Reverb Nation site. And then the last song I'm going to put up from Reverb Nation is a song I did with Oedipus Next, and that was a band I was in the 90s. And both these bands are three-piece bands. All of this music you're hearing is a live performance into a studio console. So even though it has a certain studio quality to it because it's recorded, but it's all live. There's no overdubs. This is a three-piece band. I'm the bass player in both of the bands, and my longtime friend Alan, whose house I rent a room from. He's the drummer on the Oedipus Next song. The drummer in Razor's Edge was another drummer. So I'm going to put this up just because something light, show you a little bit of my musical side. Again, most of the stuff is old. I mean, the Feel So Low is from the 70s. Flying with Fairy was recorded in 2012, shortly after, 2012. And so that's it. I'm going to put that in just to, because this was a kind of a hot one in a way. And so I just want to, spread some joy and music, because arts are a big part. And that's another thing. I mean, in a real society, art is a skill. Are you a good actor? Are you a good musician? That has real value in a real society. So anyway, I guess that'll be it. At 41 minutes and some seconds before all else, I do see the God within you. God bless you.